Hi everyone, welcome to Itsy Bitsy's live read of From Maggie by Mya O'Malley, Chapter 1, Naomi. There it was again. She might have missed it, for it had happened so quickly. Naomi figured she would keep this little secret to herself for now. Yet another amazing thing she could add to her list of reasons why she had fallen in love with her new home. A gigantic sigh escaped her lips, for this is what it felt like to own her own house. Who said she waited to be Who said she needed to wait around for the perfect man in order to fulfill her dreams? Nope, she took the horse by the reins and fulfilled one of the most important items on her grown-up to-do list. So what if she didn't have the furniture she desired most? This charming 1700 salt box house had come already furnished, so she took advantage of the fact that she could save some money for better purposes. Glancing out the large window in her dining area, Naomi took in the vast graveyard beyond. The gray sky compounded the dreary feel of the scenery. Fall was in the air, from the dancing amber leaves to the crisp wind. Some might be spooked to have a cemetery practically in their backyard, but she didn't mind. As a matter of fact, she quite enjoyed being this close to so many spirits. It was oddly comforting. All the tales that they could tell, the lives that they had led. If only she could communicate with them, she would have a million questions about the plentiful experiences during each of their lives. Naomi supposed her vivid imagination was one of the reasons she had gone into the field of writing to begin with. Tales of this area, being rich in history, had been the selling point for her. Taking another peek outside, Naomi rubbed her hands together. She couldn't wait to dive into some extensive research about her own house and the mysterious souls who were laid to rest beyond her window. It also served another purpose, taking her mind off her recent worries. Sharp rapping on the door jolted her from the dark thoughts. Amy must be early again. Early and late, the two best friends couldn't be more different. It wasn't that Naomi purposely arrived late everywhere she went, but somehow life just seemed to get in the way. Like the time she was hurrying for her job interview when she was 18, and she got stuck at a never-ending freight train, which seemed to be transporting endless supplies to the entire Northwest. It wasn't the first or last job interview she had been late for. Or how about when she and Amy had gone on a double date and her cat escaped seconds before she was leaving the house? What was one to do? Let the cat run away? Hi, I see you're early as usual. Come on in. I'm not ready yet. What happened this time? Zelda's missing again? Amy smirked, eyes searching the kitchen for the black cat. Need I remind you that you're early? And no, she's in the living room. Sure enough, as if she heard her name being called, Zelda strutted into the kitchen, rubbing her long, furry black hair all over Amy's pants. Oh, great, Zelda, you know how much I love you, but really, my best slacks? Amy sighed as she grabbed the pet hair roller. Naomi kept on the kitchen shelf, just for her friend, to remove the cat hair. How does the cat hair not bother you? Every time I see you, you've got Zelda's black fur flying off you, Amy explained, waving her arms through the air. Give me a second, and we'll get going, Naomi called as she was running for the stairs. She stopped short. Again, a flash of a shadow. It was there. Then it was gone. It hadn't been the first time she had witnessed this particular phenomenon, and she was sure it wouldn't be the last. Naomi figured it could be her imagination, but then again, it could also be due to the fact she lived on this eerie piece of property. Naomi had never witnessed evidence of ghosts prior to living here, so her gut told her something was amiss. No bother, though. Thoughts of a resident spirit intrigued her. At least it wouldn't be boring here. Amy, shoot! She sprinted into her bedroom to finish getting ready. This would be the very last blind date she would allow Amy to drag her to. Geez, she and Amy were only 28 years old. What was the rush, especially since she and Nick had only recently split? Nick. He hadn't been right for her, and his jealous ways had finally provoked her to end their treacherous 2-year relationship. Anxious thoughts came to mind before she pushed the troublesome images away. The last guy Amy had subjected her to had been allergic to cats and had politely informed her that if the relationship were to continue, she would need to find a home for her cat. Imagine that. She had abruptly stood and excused herself from the remainder of the date, leaving an open-mouthed Amy with both the man and her own date. Giggling at the memory, Naomi could practically hear her friend shrieking into the cell phone, complaining that she should have at least tried to make it through the end of the date, and that the rest of the evening had been quite awkward, as Naomi's date had stayed on, and even ate half of her appetizer. "I'm ready," Naomi called, out of breath before sprinting down the stairs. "Oh my God, look at you. Where's your brush?" Naomi's long dark hair was forever unkempt. "Oh, just a second," she called as she made her way to the bathroom. Glancing in the mirror, she didn't think her hair looked half bad, but she smoothed it down with her brush nonetheless. "This is," Naomi began, as they headed toward Amy's car. "This is the last time," Amy finished her sentence with a chuckle. "I've heard it before. But this time I mean it." With a huff, she settled into the car. "Heard that before, too." Amy turned the ignition and they headed to the nearby river town to meet up with their dates. It was kind of cool the way Amy arranged for them to meet up with their dates together. Most didn't seem to mind the setup, and Naomi knew the reason why Amy insisted upon these double dates. Naomi wouldn't go on her own. Dating just wasn't high on her priorities, and she was free for the first time in years and was kind of enjoying the solitude. Amy was a master at stirring up these dates. Some she found on internet sites, while others she found during the course of her day. At times, Naomi wished she were as outgoing as her best friend, for she found herself tongue-tied if an attractive man was nearby and usually clammed up and avoided eye contact. Not exactly a magnet for men. "Now, this one I have a really good feeling about," Amy started as she turned the wheel, steering the car into the parking lot of the restaurant by the river. "Oh, if I had $1 for every time I heard that one." A small huff escaped Naomi's lips. Amy had basked in the role of matchmaker long before Nick had even come into the picture. Nick. The negativity that surrounded thoughts of him was suddenly intense, as if a heavy dark cloud had found its way into her head. Too heavy, she pondered, and much too dark. Naomi considered herself to be a strong woman, but when her thoughts wandered to Nick, she had a hard time shaking the feeling of dread. Yeah, open mind this time, right?" Amy coached as she walked into the entrance. "Who picked this place? I'm a struggling author, remember?" Glancing around at the perfectly landscaped property with a stunning view of the Hudson River, she sighed. "I did. I told you I think this one is special. And don't worry, the lunch menu won't kill you. It's the dinner prices that get you." With her shoulders back, Amy reviewed the pertinent information regarding Thomas. He was a divorced insurance salesman with a 5-year-old son. She wasn't sure if she was up to the role of being a stepmom, but then again, she was getting way ahead of herself here. Wasn't she? It was just a date. Just a date. Settling down at the table in the back of the room, they waited. "See that? All the pressure you put on me, and they're late." A few minutes later, a handsome, scratch that, very handsome man with wavy black hair walked through the door. "Whoa!" "That's not him," Amy stated through clenched teeth. "But it's nice to see that you're interested in a man. Keep your head in the game. Look, here's my date." Amy waved the guy over to the table. Naomi's eyes followed the dark-haired guy as he found a seat alone at the bar. She didn't even notice Amy's date until he propped himself down across the table from her. "Naomi. Earth to Naomi." "Oh, sorry. Hello, nice to meet you." She met his extended hand with her own and noted how limp his handshake was. And sweaty. Naomi, this is Peter. Peter, my friend Naomi. Nice to meet you, Peter responded with a nervous half smile. It was never a good sign when someone showed up late for her first date. Obviously, her own date couldn't care less about the first impressions. She bit her fingernails as she attempted to participate in the conversation between Amy and Peter. Boring. This chit-chat was plain boring. One of the endless reasons she hated getting to know someone new. It took so much time and effort. Plain exhausting is what it was. Also almost better to be left alone, to be alone. 10 minutes later, her date arrived, dressed in a business suit. Naomi liked her men a bit more casual. Hi everyone, I'm Thomas. I apologize for being late. I was with an important client. Thomas puffed his chest out as he ran a slender hand through his short hair. Naomi addressed him with a cool stare. Tool. This guy had the word tool practically dripping off him. Naomi tried to glance at the clock on the wall, but it loomed over her. Tick, tick, ticking. Thinking that she'd rather be home reading a good book with Zelda curled by her feet, she forced a stiff smile. Somewhere over the course of the conversation, she heard something that caught her attention. Not very good at faking conversation, she noted Amy's icy stare as she responded to Thomas's comment, with the most enthusiasm she could muster, which was not much. It wasn't that she was being rude, but when someone just went on and on about how much money he made, his ex-wife, and so on, she zoned out. But she did hear mention of the word pet. I have the most adorable pet. She's all black. You have a cat? Ooh, I don't like cats, Thomas frowned, shaking his head. Tightening her fist, her first instinct was to bolt straight out the door, but Amy seemed to be enjoying herself just fine, and she didn't wish to ruin her friend's date. However, she could take a break, a much-needed break. If you'll excuse me, I need a drink. Jumping to her feet, Naomi headed straight for the bar. Giggling to herself, she heard Thomas asking if she was actually going to drink at lunchtime. Well, yes, she was, but normally she didn't. Something about you, Thomas, has made me realize I could use a drink. She had almost forgotten about the handsome man seated at the bar. He had a glass of red wine in his hands, twirling the stem of the glass with his fingers. His eyes were glued to the television set. I'll have what he's having. Amy clutched her purse as she placed her order with the bartender. The handsome man raised his eyebrows, his eyes locking with hers. Naomi swallowed. I hope you like a good Merlot. That's what this is. She didn't care if he was drinking gasoline, she realized. Oh yes, I do. My name's Ryan. Nice to meet you. The bartender gently placed her Merlot in front of her as she reached for her purse. Ryan told the bartender that he was buying. Well, thank you. You didn't have to do that. Naomi felt her face flush. It's my pleasure. I didn't catch your name. Naomi. I'm Naomi. To you, Naomi. I hope you have better dates ahead, Ryan announced, touching his glass with hers. She gulped. It was a great thing to toast to, but how did he know about the status of her date? Chapter 2. Naomi. Days flew by as her mind was directed to the thoughts of Ryan. Since the afternoon they had met, she couldn't tear her mind away from him. He worked as a history professor at college up on the hill overlooking the river, currently teaching online from his home. That day they had sat for hours until the bright afternoon sun faded and the darkening night welcomed them. Much to Amy's displeasure, she had stayed with Ryan, eventually grabbing a booth for dinner. Days later, Amy got over herself when she realized how smitten Naomi had become with Ryan. They had spoken every day and met for coffee. Today marked Ryan's first visit to her new house. Humming a favorite show tune, she dusted and fussed, wanting to make a good impression. Zelda weaved in and out of her legs, speaking to her in the way only a cat can. Plans for dinner at the Italian place across the street would also follow his visit. Thank you for listening to this portion.